Here we are at Eden Health Retreat at the launch of the Porsche Macan Electric. Today we've got two cars for you, Macan Turbo and the Macan 4. We're going to run through driving experience, the spec, the details on both cars and work out which one suits you.
Let's start with powertrain and performance. Both cars have dual permanent magnet synchronous motors front and rear, so they're all-wheel drive. But where they differ is the max power of the Macan Turbo, 430 kilowatt and 584 PS, where the Macan 4 is 300 kilowatt and 408 PS. Now with launch control and overboost, power goes from 430 up to 470, and the Macan 4 goes from 300 kilowatt to 320. Now the Macan Turbo with 430 kilowatt is 584 PS, which is pretty close to horsepower. So that's more horsepower than the GT3 RS 911. And when it comes to torque, a massive 1130 Newton meters, where the Macan 4 has half that at 650. And that shows in the 0 to 100 time for the Turbo at 3.3 seconds and the Macan 4 at 5.2 seconds. Top speed is 260 kilometers an hour for the Macan Turbo and 220 kilometers an hour for the Macan 4. The key takeaway is the Macan Turbo is far quicker than the Macan 4 with nearly double the horsepower and torque. However, speak about the two cars like this, just looking at their specs on paper, you would think that the Macan Turbo is a far superior car. But on road, the Macan 4 is a lovely car to drive. The Macan Turbo feels like a lot. When I drove the cars initially back to back, my preference was the 4. It felt more like a normal Porsche that I was used to, where the Macan Turbo felt like the next thing. Getting behind the wheel of the Turbo, I had to recalibrate my brain for how quick it was, how quick the car is, how quick the steering is. It's also got a level of luxury with the air suspension, which almost disconnects you from the road a little bit. You don't feel that with the Macan 4 with its steel spring suspension. You get a bit more feeling and, texture of how the car moves with the steel spring suspension, whereas the air suspension is wafty as such, can be quite lovely, quite a luxury type of a feel, but disconnected. So I had to recalibrate my brain for the Macan Turbo, with its rear wheel steering, with its power, with its super sharp steering rack, and potential buyers will have to do the same. But definitely the Macan 4 felt like a normal Porsche driving experience without the rear wheel steer, with the rack as it was, steel suspension. It's a lovely driving experience. So the Macan 4 is great, the Macan Turbo is much more. Okay, let's talk about the battery and the range. The Macan Turbo and the Macan 4 both have the same battery. Porsche call it Performance Battery Plus. The electric range slightly differs. So on the Macan Turbo, you've got 616 kilometers, and the Macan 4 slightly longer at 654 kilometers. Charging times. AC 11 kilowatt, which is your home power outlet, is up to 10 hours for both. DC 120 kilowatt is 46 minutes. DC Max 270 kilowatt up to 21 minutes for both. So the key takeaway, the Macan 4 has a slightly longer range. Both share the same battery pack and charging times. Let's look at the chassis and handling. The Macan Turbo and the Macan 4 both have front and rear aluminium multi-link suspension. The difference in the suspension is that the Macan Turbo has an adaptive air suspension with PASM, and the Macan 4 has a steel spring suspension with PASM as optional. And when we're talking about a car that doesn't have an engine, there's not much left to link you to the road if you take away the spring suspension as well. So if you're looking for a feel that feels a little bit normal and you're moving into this electric car scene, potentially the steel spring is worth driving if you feel a bit odd driving the Turbo. And I'm trying to speak to people coming into the electric car for the first time. If you're used to air suspension and you like the way that feels, the Turbo is going to be great. The Turbo is a great car, but is a big step. Porsche Torque Vectoring Plus, PTV Plus, is standard with the Macan Turbo and an option for the Macan 4 at 2,810 Australian dollars. Brakes front and rear are very good. They're slightly larger on the Macan Turbo at 400mm and 38mm thick, whereas the Macan 4 is 375mm and 36mm. whereas the rears are both the same at 350 and 30. The key takeaway, the Macan Turbo has a more advanced suspension setup and slightly better braking performance. And the coefficient of drag, surprisingly, is better for the Macan Turbo with its more aggressive front at 0.25 and the Macan 4 at 0.27. Both very good. Interior comfort and features. The Macan Turbo has adaptive sports seats, 18-way electric, and the Macan 4 has comfort seats, 14-way electric. Seat heating, front and rear, is standard for the Macan Turbo and front only for the Macan 4, and 4-zone climate control, standard for the Turbo and optional for the Macan 4. So the key takeaway here is the Macan Turbo has more premium comfort features as standard, and you're going to need to tick the boxes there to bring the Macan 4 up to the same level. Technology and infotainment. Okay, the Macan Turbo and the Macan 4 both feature a 10.9-inch HD touchscreen infotainment screen in the front. Passenger display is an optional $2,230 Australian extra. Now the Macan Turbo has the Boss surround sound system, 14 speakers, 710 watt as standard, and it's an option in the Macan 4. The key takeaways is the Macan Turbo includes a better sound system as standard. Let's look at exterior design and aerodynamics. The Macan Turbo has 21-inch Macan Turbo wheels, and the Macan 4 has 20-inch Macan wheels. Turbo-specific design elements are obviously featured in the Turbo only, and they're front air curtains, turbo badging, and a unique diffuser, whereas the Macan 4 does not. And the Matrix LED headlights are standard with the Turbo and an option for the Macan 4, 2,470 Australian dollars. So the key takeaways, the Macan Turbo has a sportier and more aggressive exterior. Let's wrap these two cars up together. The Macan Turbo is the high performance variant, offering significantly more power, better acceleration, superior handling, and more premium features. The Macan 4 is the entry-level version, all-wheel drive still, but with lower power output, longer range, which is good, and fewer performance-focused features. It still offers Porsche's signature driving experience. And I have to say, it was the pick in a first drive scenario with a lot of motoring journalists.
Well, that's our take on the Macan electric models. I hope this little video has helped you choose the car for you, whether it's the all-in turbo or the amazingly capable 4. Thanks for watching. I'm Lee from Duck and Whale, and we'll see you in the next one.
Just a quick note to say that we are a printed magazine. If you love the analog medium, check us out on the website.